2020. We have carefully selected a lot of subjects for this webinar, and we have conducted almost 20 programs till date. And these programs will continue up to March 22nd. So today's topic of webinar is role of data analytics in building energy management. The term data and energy have some similarities because we require energy in our all areas of life, and data is also important in all the areas. So energy and this same data is somewhat similar, and data have its own role in energy management too. Today's speaker, Mr. Anantha GS, is a young professional working in the field of building energy management. He presently working as lead energy strategist of Smart Joules Private Limited. I welcome him to the webinar, and I welcome all of the participants to this webinar. And one more request, you please give your valuable feedback at the end of a webinar. We will put the link for the feedback form in the chat box. Once again, I welcome Mr. Anantha Padmanabhan GS and all the participants to the webinar. Let us start the session.
So, I hope I am actually visible to all of you. My presentation is visible. Jasmine, can you just confirm?
Yes, your presentation is visible. I think you have not shared your webcam, right?
Yeah, I will just start.
Okay. Then you can continue.
I am starting. Okay, so just a brief intro about me in person and about little bit about EMC. So I firstly congratulate the Energy Management Center Kerala for such a good initiative to bring a lot of industry professionals as well as academicians to a common platform like this to actually share and learn. That is the biggest thing that we can do right now in these circumstances. So I think first warm congratulations for them on that regard, especially on the energy efficiency front. Actually, I've been a very keen listener and as well as a spectator to the webinars that have been happening in the past. So as even maybe not in the real time or live time, but the practice of uploading these videos in the YouTube is also a very good practice. So commenting on that also. And even before this particular venture, that is this webinar series happening, I was also actively participating with EMC in the Urjagaran activity in 2017 during the time of my post-graduation with the Model Engineering College. So the relation is very long, and really happy to share some learnings today with all of you on this building energy efficiency front and how the data analytics is actually applied on the building energy efficiency and building energy management front. So without further ado, a little bit brief about me for the people who have joined to listen to this webinar. My background is as an energy engineer. I have actually completed my post-graduation in energy management, and I've been working with Smart Joules with around 2 years and 3 months now. In the beginning was an energy analyst, and now it's a strategist kind of a position where actually I'm a team lead and leading a team of energy engineers with the only objective of saving energy from the building through energy efficiency initiatives and continuous energy optimization through building management systems, basically using data. So just a brief intro before actually I step into the details. Yeah. So I believe everybody is able to see this. Yeah. So today's scope of webinar, that is for everybody's awareness for the participants, this will be the different topics that we will be touching today. And since I'm not having any feedback in terms of the chats happening in the background, you can type in your questions at any stage, and I will take the questions at the end of the session. Possibly, this is totally 1.5 hours allotted to me, and I would try to engage that time, the last half an hour or at least 25 minutes of that for questions, so that we can take as much as possible. So moving into the details, what we will be touching upon, optimization and real-time energy savings, as well as what is the importance of IoT and industrial IoT, as well as data analytics, and what are the different ways or methodologies you can save energy from the building in consideration with energy efficiency. So I won't be touching that much into the theory part, but still we have been watching to the different sessions from very senior people from the industry over the last say 1 or 2 months regarding building energy efficiency as well as centralized air conditioning. So I won't be going into the theory. For everybody who are actually been participating in this webinar, this is mostly focusing upon the application of data for saving energy from the building. So I will be focusing upon data-oriented case studies and not much into the theories of air conditioning or any other building processes. So that is one disclaimer in the beginning, because that is not in the scope of this particular session. And definitely, what is the different applications of data, and finally, what is the future? What more we can expect in the days and years to come? So this is all will be discussed, and that is the actual uh, agenda for the day. But before beginning on to that, a little bit about Smart Joules from where I come from and from where I work. So Smart Joules is actually an energy saving company. That is, we are an ESCO that was incorporated as a private limited company in 2014 December. So the mission, as you can see in the screen, is to eliminate energy waste through innovations in continuous energy optimization. So this is actually an energy company. We are spread across the entirety of India, around 25 plus cities. We are actually saving energy and going ahead with our energy conservation measures. So as you can see in the screen, there are three primary business offerings or building services we provide, as we are an energy saving company. So it is actually, one is Joule Pay, or pay as you save kind of a model, and there is actually a DJoule, that is a continuous building management system. So that is another BMS model, and then there is Joule Cool, that is the cooling as a service kind of a model. So actually there are three types of business offerings that this company put forward. One is actually the pay as you save model, that is the customer is expected to do nothing in the beginning. That is, we will do the audit, we will do the we will analyze the possibility of energy savings, and we will do the interventions, investing in the building in terms of putting in new equipment, changing the equipments and altering the process. And then there will be a 4 or 5 or 6 year contract that will extend the course of 5 or 6 years, where we will be continuously trying to save energy. So that is one pay as you save model, and that is in practice for at least 20-25 buildings in India. Coming to the second part, that is the DJoule BMS, that is the continuous building energy management system that Smart Joules put forward. That is the BMS offering for the company, and that will be the area that I'll be touching a little bit into the details when the presentation moves further. And the final, or the new one, I just put forward a new word for everybody to Google after the session ends. It's called the Kigali Cooling Efficiency Program. It is called KSEP, Kigali Cooling Efficiency Program. So along the lines of that, Smart Joules is actually trying to introduce a new business model or business proposition in India, where we are actually proposing cooling as a service. So for this amount of cooling, if everybody know that cooling is denoted in terms of TR. So this much amount of TRH, 1 TRH, this will be the cost. So cooling as a service, where the entire infrastructure, the electricity, everything will be taken care by our company, and the cooling will be offered to the client at a certain cost per unit of cooling. So this is the different business offerings that we propose, and this is the different tools or business propositions we put forward to save energy. So without wasting much time, and finally, at the end of the day, what is the vision of Smart Joules means? By 2025, we want to manage the maximum number of joules in India. So joules, as all of you know, it is the unit of work done. So we want to manage the amount of work done, the maximum capacity in India, by providing the maximum possible output with minimum possible input. So that is the motto, I would say, that is the objective in which we work. That is our company's vision. So moving further without ado about DJoule, because the entire data that I am showing in today's session, or the application or the case studies or the optimization or the automation or the analytics, everything is coming from this particular state-of-the-art building energy management system of Smart Joules. And this is actually a, I would say, continuous energy optimization technology that is based on completely having a web-based architecture. So it is running in cloud and can be running anywhere. It is low cost and high performance Internet of Things hardware, and is having a very interactive and intuitive UI and powerful data processing. So it's not merely fetching in data to show it to you. It is actually fetching in data and is able to consume the data in real time and take decisions in real time. So that is the most important aspect you should understand. It is not merely fetching data like the usual BMS do. It is able to consume the data real time and take decisions and fetch energy savings, I would say. So that is the importance of our BMS. It's not actually a marketing tool, it's actually fact. So anyway, let's start the official session right now. Now I'm done with the background and from where I come from, where I work in, and what we exactly. So optimization, I would say, it is the very, very glamorous term nowadays. Everybody uses optimization. So what does Google says about optimization? Let's start from there. So building energy efficiency, building energy management, analytics. So analytics in the building energy efficiency or building energy management landscape is actually applied for the objective of to achieve optimization. So optimization is the action of making the best or the most effective use of a situation or a resource. That is what optimization goes according to Google. That is for. So I'm now able to hear and I'm not echoing myself either. So hopefully it continues. And coming to the importance of measurement in optimization, there are two important statements which we follow in our company as well as it is universal to some extent. So anything that is not measured cannot be managed effectively. And you cannot give the wrong data to a smart person and ask him to optimize. So the first one came from my CEO, and second one came from my interview with the person who is leading the operations at Infosys. So you cannot ask a person to work on the wrong data, and you need to ensure the data sanctity. And if you're not measuring it in the first place, you can't even optimize. So these two things are relevance of I would say measurement in optimization as well as the need of IoT. So let's slowly progress. So a little bit into the basics of IoT and data analytics before going into the use case studies. Advanced analytics is at the core of industry Internet of Things. So there is actually a term called IIoT, that is Industry Internet of Things. So as per a survey, by 2025 we are expecting 41.6 billion devices to be connected in or coming under the umbrella of Internet of Things. 41.6 billion devices. That includes your, I would say, the mobile phones, the television, refrigerators, microwave ovens, even the transportation, like even a four-wheelers or a two-wheeler would come under the umbrella of Internet of Things. So when analytics is applied onto a machine and process data, they help to optimize decision making. So the decision making capability of any individual in a real-time scenario is improved because of the data that he has. So the insights and intelligence can be applied across any level. It can be any level, any process in the industry, and it can be utilized or leveraged to greatest extent. So in short, what is all this? If the data is a new oil, it is the new oil of this, I would say, this particular decade and the decades to come. The data analytics is a new engine that propels the industry Internet of Things transformation. So without collecting data real time and able to act on the data real time in a new age, where the non-conventional energy resources like rather the conventional energy resource like the fossil fuel oriented energy resources, they are depleting at a faster pace, the value or the worth that is associated with energy is very high. So if we have to conserve the energy as well as we have to ensure that the energy is being exploited in the best efficiency possible. So that means you have to have information about how you are using it, what is the input and what is the output. So that is all coming through data, and real-time decisions are the key. So moving further, there are actually 5 must-have capabilities in Internet of Things data management that is applied to any field whatsoever, whether it is energy efficiency or whatever application you are taking data and applying on. You have to understand these 5 principles. That is versatile connectivity and ability to handle data variety. So there are a lot of systems and there are a lot of protocols, there are a lot of communication methodologies that are available right now. So if in the case of industry, you are taking in data from maybe today it is a SCADA, supervisory control and data acquisition systems that are running in industries that are controlling your factory flows. Tomorrow you want to acquire this data and send it to the cloud. So that might be different protocols involved. So these kind of protocols, the IoT should have the compatibility to be integrated to all these kind of protocols and to fetch the data. So that is a very, very important requirement. Then the coming is the edge processing and enrichment. Edge processing means you are taking data from n number of sensors, final end user equipments, and that data is being ingested to the data lake or the big data pool, you want to call it. So that data should be snag free or errorless, or it should be able to filter out the snags or the errors or the mistakes in the ground level itself. So that is where the edge processing or enrichments happen. A simple example is if you are putting a sensor to measure the temperature of the water, and you're getting a negative value of temperature from your sensor. That itself is a corrupted data that should not be ingested into the data lake, and that should be actually processed at the edge where the sensor itself is measuring the data. That shouldn't even come to the data lake. That is where the edge processing is important. And then comes the big data processing and machine learning. So you are having tons of data. I have seen Febin's presentation on the echo structure BMS from Schneider. They are polling data at every 5 minutes. So we are polling data in every 1 minute. So 1 hour we are getting 60 data points. People are polling data maybe even more than that, 200 or 250 data points in 1 hour. So these kind of very, very higher polling rates, that means polling rate is actually the rate at which you are taking in data. 1 data per minute or 1 data per 5 minutes or something like that. So that is a huge amount of data we are talking here. So that amount of data needs to be processed. We need to have powerful cloud computing systems, and we need to have these kind of computing algorithms as well as capabilities, as well as we need to consume the data that we are fetching in real time without latency, that is without delay in decision making. We have to ensure that the data is fetched, consumed, and a decision is taken in real time. So that is actually where machine learning comes. Anyway, so addressing data drift. So today I am taking temperature in Celsius. Tomorrow my firmware is changed into taking in temperature from Fahrenheit. So this should not affect the data lake, or this should not affect the ability of our data management. So that is what data drift is. With time, with period, the way in which the software and firmware handles data would change, but that should not affect the data lake or the place where you hold the data. And finally, of course, real-time monitoring and alerts. You will have to handle the data real-time, as well as you have to take decision also in real-time. So that is another key significant point. That is a must-have capability in IoT data management. Anyway, moving further forward, the real-time intelligence and alerts and nudges. What is real-time intelligence? As I've told you, you are fetching all this data real-time. You are polling data every minute. So you have to consume this data in real time with a sub-second latency. Latency is again the delay in taking a decision. You can say that. So people want to understand and consume this data and generate alerts and nudges. Nudging is like a small pop-up in the Gmail, which all of us use. That Gmail gives us a pop-up that there was a mail sent 5 days ago. Do you want to reply, or do you want to respond? That is a nudge. So something that like that will be available in the BMS screen, telling that this is the situation and this is the action that you need to take. So operational discrepancies, comfort conditions, consumption benchmarks, electrical parameters, all these things comes under the big broad family of real-time intelligence and action based on that. Maybe an alert, maybe an SMS, maybe an email, whatever it is. So the sensors or the end instruments like the meters or anything will fetch you data, and this data will be consumed real time, and a decision will be taken. Some action needs to be taken, or like imagine there is a flow in the pipeline that is now below the normal limits. You are getting an SMS in your mobile phone that the flow in the pipeline is below the acceptable value. Say this much meter cube per hour, or this much liters per hour, or maybe gallons per minute, or whatever it is. You need to increase the flow, or you need to do something about it. So that will come in your phone as an SMS, or maybe as an email, or a push notification in your dashboard. So these kind of things are actually the first level utilization of data for intelligence. So moving further forward, this is a simple example. Those people who are actually aware of centralized air conditioning and water cooled chiller plants would know. There have been multiple sessions in past where there is actually a parameter in chillers, water cooled screw chillers, especially in buildings that are providing centralized air conditioning. There is some parameter called condenser entry temperature, or that is, in very simple words, high pressure or discharge pressure or condenser pressure or whatever you want to call it. So every chiller is supposed to be operating in a certain kind of pressure limit. That is actually P directly proportional to T. If T, that is temperature increases, pressure also would increase. Here you can see condenser entry temperature has gone to 107 degree Fahrenheit, somewhere around that I would say 42, 45 degrees Celsius, and the machine has actually tripped in safety. So the temperature limit of that equipment has actually overrun, and the chiller has tripped because there is nobody to actually fetch the data, use the data in real time and tell somebody your temperature is going high, your chiller will trip, please do something about it. So this is an actual example of a live incident happened in 2018 in one of our sites in India. So actually in Delhi. So this particular scenario happened when we only had monitoring. But what happens next? Here you see when condenser entry temperature is cutting 90 degrees Fahrenheit, that is the safety limit for that parameter. We are able to shut down the equipment through our own IoT platform. We are able to sense that something abnormal is happening, and let's shut down the equipment in safety. So this is another important scenario where without damaging the equipment, if the operator or the person who is actually handling the plant, if he is not available, we can shut down the plant in safety using the data that has been pulled from the system through IoT and protect the machine, and after that restart if the condition is resolved. So these kind of simple alerts or nudges can be generated. So what is the extent of control possible in an all variable HVAC system? Why I am now shifting into HVAC is, as the topic for today is building energy management. So what is the largest consumer of energy in a building, in a commercial building? I am speaking mostly in terms of hospital building because we are a company that is, as a company leader or an industry leader in terms of hospital building energy efficiency management. So simple answer is the best hospital building in India is KIMS Hospital, Hyderabad. You can check in any website, Confederation of Indian Industry website, or maybe even BE website. Many places, and it is even has won multiple awards also. So national awards also. It is the best hospital building in the country. That is KIMS Hospital, Hyderabad, Secunderabad. It is actually, there is a parameter called EPI, Energy Performance Index, kilowatt hour per square meter per year. So that is somewhere around 108 kilowatt hour per square meter annually. So that is the extent of energy efficiency we deal with. So I am speaking about a building landscape or building energy efficiency landscape, and the most important or the largest consumer of energy in the building is centralized air conditioning. So what are the different controls we have in centralized air conditioning? That is, you see, we can control the set point or the temperature of chill water, the frequency can be modulated, we can open and close valves, we can start and stop machines. So all these things, we can do it through the BMS as a aftermath or as a result of the data analytics we do to save energy. So now I am actually going into the use case or utilization studies. Hopefully, I am trying to actually show you some use case studies rather than going into the theories of air conditioning. So just a little bit of background information before I actually step into this. So I have actually seen the webinar from my seniors in this particular area, from Rajesh Deshpande sir as well as Paraman Radhakrishnan sir in the past 1 month, where they both explained about chillers, screw chillers, water cooled chillers, constant speed machines, different types of compressors, all these numbers. So I won't be going into the theory of any of the air conditioning, the evaporator or compressor or condenser or expansion valve, the refrigerants, nothing. So that has all been dealt with in multiple sessions in the past. This session is only, or the scope of my webinar is confined to the application of data for saving energy in the building, especially in an hospital building, mostly in centralized air conditioning. So when I speak about centralized air conditioning, I am saying it is screw compressor, water cooled chillers that we are dealing here, because that is the mostly used variety of chillers in the building. Screw compressors, water cooled chillers in centralized, that is mostly VFD machines, that is variable speed machines. So this is what the process I will be dealing with, and most of the case studies are associated with that process, and the energy meter that is associated with the process, and the data that is associated with that process. So mostly I will be touching in that area. Already we lost some time in between, so I will be little bit going in pace. You can type in your questions, I will take it in the end. So the basic way of saving energy, even at our homes, is that if you don't need, you should just shut it down. That is actually the basic stuff that all of us know. If you don't need an equipment, just shut it down. So that is actually applicable in industry, in a building, in a commercial application, wherever it is. So in our terms or in our analytical terminology, we call it run as analysis or the running as or operational as analysis. So that is actually the applicable to high side and low side. So it is high side means the air conditioning central plant, and low side means the building heat exchangers or the air handling units, the facilitators of cooling on the building side. So there are actually different parts of air conditioning, but that has already been covered. But there is a central plant and there is a building part. So imagine that you are sitting right now. Let's take the case of the EMC office itself. They are all sitting in the conference room, and there is a conference happening, and the actual people are sitting there, and they need a centralized air conditioning. So the centralized air conditioning is actually feeding to that area, and the conferences stay from morning 8 o'clock to evening 4 o'clock, and people have to leave after that. So imagine that this place is manually shut down, and somebody is actually forgetting to shut it down on the right time. That is where the running hours analysis and the data comes in. So as per the data, it leaves a signature that every day, or maybe that particular area that I am speaking about, that conference room in this particular building, in the EMC office itself, they are shutting it down every day at 4 o'clock. And today that has not been shut down at 4 o'clock. Somebody actually forgot to do that. It ran through the night. So such kind of situations happen, and we will lose energy. And when we speak about untimely, or maybe somebody forgetting to shut down an equipment, it will be running for a prolonged amount of time. Means the energy consumption of that particular equipment is going to high. And at the same time, in centralized air conditioning, if an air handling unit or a building heat exchanger, if it is running for more amount of time, means there is more load in the central plant. So there is a butterfly effect in the HVAC system. If one air handling unit is running for more time, the chill water pump that is sitting in the plant room will have to pump more water to make the area cold, or reach the water there. At the same time, chiller will be having more load because of this region. So there are multiple repercussions for a machine not being shutting down at a certain time. And this is where running as analysis and the data oriented decision making comes into. So we have a data signature that every day this shuts down at a certain time in the day. And today it has not been shut down, say at 4 o'clock, it has not been shut down, and we check at 4:15, still it is working. So what happens? If you see this, both the graphs on this screen right now, the graph on the left is one of the operational pattern of a air handling unit in one of our hospital buildings in Delhi. So that hospital building, it is having actually a canteen HU, where it is actually providing cooling to the inhabitants of a canteen. And the canteen HU is supposed to run for 7 hours, as you see, scheduled running hours of dietary HU or canteen HU, 7 hours in a day. But every day you see it is running for 14, 15, 20, 16. The running hours change. It is running more than needed. So this is a 5.5 kilowatt motor that is running for more hours than expected every day. So in 1 month we came to know through the data, through IoT, through analytics, that 214 hours this equipment run for more. So we are actually 214 into 5.5 kilowatt. So that is 1050 units we have lost. One unit, it's costing somewhere around 10 rupees in Delhi in a hospital building. So 10,000 rupees gone from the motor of the air handling unit alone in a single month. But when you come into the right side, where actually we applied this learning through the IoT, through decision making algorithms, we were able to curb it to the stipulated time, or say 1 hour or 1.5 hours more than that. So even though some days it shows above or below, this is because even though we have taken the control of this region, still the user will have the ability to manually override and shut down the or maybe ensure that the machine runs for more time if the user requires. So that override ability is always there, and that is where that some graphs are extending above the normal line. So this is the application of data, a simple, a very basic application of data to save energy through analytics, and then through automation, through giving control commands, through also IoT, starting an equipment on time, stopping an equipment on time. Everything is done through IoT platform. So the simple example, and saving, I have told you how much we save, but a simple way of showing that there are a lot of calculations involved. But for everybody, I would just run through the calculation fast so that you are actually able to understand. So as I've told, an air handling unit, this is the dietary HU as we call it. It is a 20 TR equipment. TR is tonnage of refrigeration. So this month I have told it has run for 214 hours. So flow we are maintaining, that is in centralized air conditioning, the flow is being maintained through chilled water. Chilled water flows from the central plant to end equipments called air handling units or the heat exchangers, where the water flows into the HU or the cooling coils, and there is a blower fan sitting to suck air from the outside, and that air comes in contact with the cooling coils and it gets cold and it is applied to the region. So that flow of the chilled water, as we call it, is 2 GPM per TR. Per TR of cooling in the central plant, it is 2 GPM. Like that means if there is a 350 TR chillers in the plant room, 350 into 2, that is 700 GPM would be actually the flow through the chill water pipe. So that is the thumb rule, 2 GPM per TR. And what is the diversity factor for AHU loading? That means in a place, in a room, the occupancy does not remain constant. It changes with time. So sometimes it is peak occupancy in the morning and sometimes it is very, very low occupancy in the evening. That is where a factor comes. We call it diversity factor. And specific energy consumption, a very, very seasoned term. All of you might have heard it multiple number of times. In chiller plant, we call it IKW per TR. So IKW per TR for the entire chiller plant, that is kilowatt consumption per TR of refrigeration, is 0.72. So this is the basic information you need to know while you step into the calculation to understand what is the impact of saving energy, rather shutting this equipment down on time from the plant as well as from the HU. So energy waste eliminated from the chiller. This is the formula. Rated TR of the HU, monthly extra running hours prevented, diversity factor of loading into specific energy consumption of the plant. So as I have told, 20 TR equipment, that is 214 hours and 70% loading and 0.72, it is actually from the chiller. So from the chiller, this much amount of consumption we are able to save because this particular equipment or the air handling unit was shut down in time. Every day it was shut down at 7 o'clock in the evening instead of shutting down somewhere around 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the night. Every day it was shut down at 7 o'clock because after 7 they don't need it. But there is nobody to shut it down, or the people does not do it, they don't care. So that kind of problem is actually resolved by this. We are saving energy from the motor, we are saving energy from the chiller, and now lastly we are saving energy from the pump. So if a particular air handling unit is shut down, what happens is there is a two-way valve. There is a motorized two-way valve associated with the chill water line. That valve closes and the flow of the chilled water through the AHU cooling coil is prevented. So if the AHU is shut down, the IoT understands this, it shuts down the two-way valve, and then the water flow is prevented and we can save energy from the pump. So somewhere around, it is a small value, but still we save energy from the pump. So this is as an aftermath of all these activities, this is energy we save. From the chiller, we save some energy, we save some energy from the pump, we save some energy from the AHU. So this is actually the impact of a simple running hours analysis from a small AHU, a 20 TR, 1 TR is 400 CFM, that is a thumb rule. So 20 TR air handling unit of 8000 CFM capacity with a 5.5 kilowatt blower motor sitting within. So this is the savings that we are able to capture from a single motor in a centralized air conditioning plant that is fetching in saving from chiller and pump. So there's a simple use case study that I would like to share with all of you. If you have any questions, please do type in the chat box. Hopefully I am able to take it at the end. This is another example in the case of chiller. So as I've told, in the HU it is supposed to shut down at a certain time, chiller is also supposed to shut at a certain time. So if we have data, we know that this equipment that is supposed to run say 12 hours in a day, the 12.5 hours, the green line that is in between. This shows that this equipment should only be running for 12.5 hours in a day. But many a days it is running for more. But if we don't know that this is happening, how will we correct it? Or how will we even do a root cause analysis and investigate it? So that is where IoT and data comes, and we can question why this happened. And if it is something that can be eliminated, we can and save energy. So this is all the different ways. I'm just quickly running through. I have 7 different cases and only some 40-45 minutes maximum. So software thermostat is another way of saving energy from the building. It is again applied to the same air handling unit that I'm speaking about. So the air handling unit, as I've told, it is actually fetching energy from, rather chilled water from the central plant. The central plant is actually producing chilled water or cold water at a very low temperature. And that particular water is being pumped into the air handling unit. And that air handling unit is actually having the blower motor, which is sucking air from outside and throwing cold air into the room. So what happens if this area is overcooled? Or what happens if the area is undercooled? So who is determining the comfort of this region? That is actually where software thermostat comes. So as per ASHRAE standards, the comfort of an hospital, the many of the regions in the hospital is ranging from 21 to 24 degrees Celsius in terms of temperature. Humidity is also there. I agree. It is a factor. Somewhere around 50 to 55% is where everybody is comfortable. So that is one thing. But 21 to 24 degrees Celsius is where everybody is feeling comfortable. So whether the area is undercooled or overcooled, means the temperature is below this range or above this range, nobody knows. That is where the thermostat application comes. This is a simple graph. So what happens is there are many things to understand here, but let me explain. This violet spike that you see, it is the opening and closing of the two-way motorized two-way valve that is actually controlling the chill water flow. Okay, this one. And then there is actually there is a blower fan. That is, a blower fan is connected with a VFD, a variable frequency drive, and that VFD is actually this yellow line in between. So there are actually two controllables here, two things you can control: the amount of air, the cold air going into the area, and the amount of chilled water flowing through the cooling coils or the copper coils in the heat exchanger. So if the area is actually comfortable, as you see this particular area, that is the entire thing, this is two-way valve position and feedback. At the same time, the yellow, this orange line that is actually migrating or is actually oscillating is the area temperature. So this is the upper limit and this is the lower limit. So this you can see. The temperature is extending from 20 to 30 and we are playing between the 24 to 25.5 area. So the upper limit and lower limit is there, and this is the comfort requirement of the area. So this is also a nursery AHU where small kids are actually there. They don't want too much cold. They don't want too much heat. So there will be somewhere around, the set point is 25 degree and offset, that is the range of modulation is 0.5. It is modulating between 24.5 and 25.5. So this orange line is actually playing with the comfort. And when the orange line is here, the two controllables, the fan speed is increasing as well as the amount of cold water is increasing. Again, when the orange line comes here, the area is overcooled or it is in the lower limit. So fan speed goes to minimum and valve also shuts down. So this toggling of these controllables is actually fetching a considerable amount of energy savings, and that is another way to save energy from the building. So thermostat software of DJoule is ensuring that the temperature is in this range mostly, but in this example that you have seen, it is more because the area is different. It is having a specific requirement. So it is able to save 39% of energy from the air handling units in our sites, aiding in load reduction in central plant. So if the temperature has been toggling, that means lower load on the central chiller plant. So as well as there is a reduction in pump or pumping energy. And finally, what is the future? These kind of applications that is able to save energy from the building as well as from the various applications are actually the future. So smart AHU is actually the way forward. So if you people are interested, I will share this link in the chat box later. It is actually the paper that is published by our company about smart AHU. So if you want, you can read it. It is actually the paper published as per our case studies and as per our learning. So again, coming into pumping, little bit basics before I step into the actual savings methodology. Different types of chill water pumping are there in building. In a different types of buildings, there is actually constant primary pumping, where there is only one chill water pump, and that is constant speed pump. Then there is constant primary variable secondary configuration. There is one pumping circuit to pump the water or circulate the water through the plant, and there is another pumping configuration to pump it to the building. So that is depending upon the size of the building, depending upon the head of the building, it changes. And then there is variable primary. That means the one pump itself is serving the duty of circulating water through the plant room as well as ensuring that the water reaches the farthest corners of the building where centralized air conditioning is feeding. And then there is variable primary, variable secondary, and lot of sophistication. Point is, you are in centralized air conditioning, what is happening? You are generating cold water in your plant. You are taking this cold water to the different part of the building through pumps by pumping it. So at all times of the day, you need not maintain a constant flow, because in a hospital building itself, the OPs, the outpatient departments of many OPs, or maybe some labs, maybe some reception areas, maybe some canteen areas, they all don't function for 24 hours. They only function for 10 hours, 12 hours, 8 hours, something like that. And even in operation theaters, they operate on demand. So what happens is, if you don't need the water or air conditioning or the space to be cooled, then why to circulate chilled water through all these regions? That is actually wasting energy. So identifying the areas that are non-operational, and the IoT will take a decision, or Internet of Things will get the data. It will say that now the area is not operational by getting the status from a simple energy meter, a smart energy meter, and it will shut down the or close the valve, preventing the flow of water. So that means that there is an increase in the system pressure or the water pressure in the chill water line. And that water pressure, as you see in the last point, is 0.5 to 0.8 kilogram per cm square. You need not increase the pressure beyond this range, and that is actually wasting energy. If this much pressure is there in the system, that changes from case to case, building to building, but still, if that is the generic number we follow, if that is the pressure in the chill water line in the farthest hydraulic point in the building, your comfort is established and your area is cooled. So when many valves are closing by the IoT command, after understanding that they are not required, the pressure in the system increases. And the sensors that are integrated to, again, the IoT as well as the building management system, they will fetch that there is an increase in pressure in the line. So now let me reduce the VFD, or the variable frequency drive frequency of the chill water pump. So it should be a VFD pump, that is, its variable speed pump, to exploit this benefit. Then only you will get the savings. So keep this number in mind. Is a very important number for building. So this is what I told. This is a chiller plant layout. There is a VFD top of your chill water pump, your supply, and this is your load. So if this is a region that is shutting down, the AHU that just I showed you in 2-3 slides before, the dietary AHU, imagine this is the dietary AHU or the canteen AHU. This is shutting down at 7 o'clock in the evening. So this is a motorized valve that is integrated with the IoT BMS. This will sense that this area is off. The IoT will give the command for this valve to close, and that will increase the pressure of this line, water line, from say 0.5 to 0.8 from, and that number will increase to 1 or 1.2 kilogram per cm square. And that will be identified by the DP, or the differential pressure transmitter, and that will give a feedback back to my pump, and I will ramp the frequency down. So this is how we save energy in chill water circuits in a centralized air conditioning building. So more the number of two-way valves, you can exploit the switch down or the shutdown nature of the loads, that is the heat exchangers in the building, by having two-way valves. If you don't have this valve, and if these are not integrated to IoT and BMS, then this is, even though we know that this is off, we can't shut it down. So that means everything needs to be connected into a single platform. I'm moving forward because of the lack of time. So this is again the calculation. All the things that I've just told, it is written down here. You can read it as I say, but the point is, more the number of valves, better it is for the building, and more the number of AHUs that are integrated or heat exchangers that are under the IoT umbrella, we will know what is their nature. We can do analytics, we can see the daily switch on, switch off patterns, we can then give control commands, we can set the control commands, and the IoT will understand that this is happening, and it will actually leverage upon that data, and we will be able to save energy. So that is actually the basic of this, and I hope you are understanding. So this is actually a very interesting graph. This is one of my first case studies in my company that I actually did. So all these spikes that you see is actually the two-way valves opening and closing. So there are around 20 two-way valves in this building that are under the BMS and IoT platform. So when the area is actually operating, the valve opens, chill water flows, the space is air conditioned. When the area is not required or air conditioning is not needed, it switches down, and that happens for all the places. There are 20 some AHUs, and this is actually a span of 24 hours. The AHUs been turned on and turned off. It is in the month of, I think, October. So Delhi, October is actually somewhat cold. So you don't need air conditioning throughout, but you will still need it. But this is the red line in between you see. That is the most interesting thing. That red line is actually the frequency of the chilled water pump. So that is definitely, it is not a constant speed pump, it is a variable speed pump that can be operated on VFD. So when the valves actually open, that means the pressure in the line has come down, my pump frequency increases. When the pressure in the line is again back to normal, pump frequency comes back. So as per the opening of a valve in the fifth floor, my pump in the ground floor is able to understand that and take an action. In SCADA, what happens is they are supervisory control and data acquisition. SCADA can't do this. SCADA just presents the data to somebody as a user and they can take a decision. But this is machine-to-machine communication. A two-way valve is communicating to my pump and they are communicating or interacting between them, and then a decision is taken. So this is machine-to-machine, and that is how IoT is different. And the computation and the analytics is happening in the cloud. But in SCADA, it happens in the factory floor. That is how SCADA is different from IoT. Just a heads up point. So this is a simple example. Many number of valves closed. This is the situation. So this is before and after. So before it is somewhere around 1000 kilowatt hour, and now we are somewhere around 800 kilowatt hour. So more number of valves, IoT, under the IoT umbrella, the savings would be high. So that is a simple example of another use case of data analytics in building. So this is my favorite, or rather one of the most debatable or argued kind of an analytics and energy efficiency strategy through data. In centralized air conditioning, there is another circuit that we call the condenser circuit, where the condenser water pumps and the cooling towers come. So there is a principal convention from 1980s, especially in one of the conferences that I participated in the past, in the month of, I think, February or March, where I met the director of KNC, the director, Dr. Halimah Ramdar. He was also participating there. And on behalf of AMC, this was a debate where the condenser side pumping should be very good constant speed. But Smart Boost actually is the flagship or the regulars in that area. We operate condenser circuit in centralized air conditioning also on VFD mode. Both cooling tower and pump all are on VFD. So this is a very important pie chart that we call holy pie in the centralized air conditioning. So this is actually the part of the chiller, or the chiller consumption is actually showing a 69% of the total plant room. And condenser pump and chill water pump are 11% respectively of the total consumption of the plant room, and cooling tower is 9. So all these things collectively come to the 100% of the plant room.
There is some voice break is there. My voice is clear.
Yeah. It is a little bit of break is there, but still it is okay. Is now better?
I think that there is no, I think your mic is something fluctuating or something like that. Is everything okay there?
I am able to hear you properly.
But there is a small voice break in your sound. That's interrupted.
Okay, I would try to keep the microphone as close as possible, but I am working on a FiberNet. I believe I am okay. If there is a problem, I would try to keep the microphone as close as possible and take it forward.
Okay.
So then I would actually reduce my voice modulation a little bit so that I am able to hear me properly. Or point is the centralized air conditioning. This is the percentage sharing or the consumption sharing in the plant room. So chiller is the most, pumps are the second, and cooling tower fans are the third. So as I told, the objective is to save energy from the system. So this is actually one of the points that we introduced, and this is actually having 3 parts. So you should understand, one is the blue line. Hello.
I don't know what
Log out and back once more.
No need for that. How are you using a headset mic?
No. Now your voice is also breaking for me. Maybe my network has some problem. Should I try to reconnect once more?
My voice is also breaking. So maybe the problem with the server internet. Not of us.
Yeah, is the participants also reporting the same?
Please continue.
Hello.
Can you continue?
Yeah. I'm trying to make it as clear as possible, but Anyway, both our voices breaking. That is what they are saying. Kindly apologize for the inconvenience because we are all sitting in this very situation and there is some problem with the internet. I would try to make it as clean as possible and run through the presentation. Yeah. Should I continue?
There's some problem with the server internet. There is some problem with the internet of server. So I think the whole section has gone and reconnected now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now it's
currently you are presenter too. You can.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
It is all. I think there is some problem with the. Yeah, I can hear you, but your voice is a little bit breaking. What about my voice?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Should I continue or should we pause it? What do you want to do? Okay, fine. So
continue. You can continue.
Hopefully, I will try to be. Yeah. Okay. So let me see what is the. Live feedback. Can anybody reply from the participants? Am I audible or it's still breaking? Okay.
എടാ സെർവറിലെ നെറ്റ് പോയി എന്നാണ് തോന്നുന്നത്. ഹലോ, ഒന്ന് വെയിറ്റ് ചെയ്യും. എനിക്കിപ്പം ടൈപ്പ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല. എന്റെ ഫുള്ള് സാധനവും പോയി. റീകണക്ട് ആയി വന്നതേ ഉള്ളൂ. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay.
Yes, but you are audible.
I apologize for the issues. Okay. I think there is some issues at the server side because we are using AAA server and all. So I think some minor network issues happened there. So everyone had lost their control, and again now we are all joined back. 9 participants are still there. So can we continue?
Yeah, we can. If everybody is able to hear me properly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, you are able to hear.
Okay, fine. So, if you see, I was speaking about the condenser circuit here. So, I think just by we will go a little bit overshoot in time, say for 15-20 minutes more, considering the.
No problem. You can continue because there were 2 network issues happening. So you can continue.
Yeah, so this is actually, there is M1 and M2, 2 parameters you should learn. One is actually the cost of the cooling tower operation, that is M1, this line. and there is actually cost of condenser pump operation M2. So these two things are actually in a usual centralized air conditioning plant. There is actually a flat line, nothing changes. Both are constant speed, and some places people use the variable speed cooling tower with the VFD mounted on that. But what Smart Joules proposed, and through our ideas and through our innovations in our sites through continuous experimentation, this is actually the ideal operation of the condenser circuit with the pump and the cooling tower, where the condenser pump is actually on VFD and cooling tower is also on VFD. So what happens is cooling tower approach is a very important parameter. That is the effectiveness of the cooling tower. Closer the cooling tower outlet temperature or the condenser entry temperature to the chiller, better it is for the machine. So if the cooling tower approach is say low, it is very very good. It's a kind of a premium efficiency cooling tower which is having a 3 degree, 4 degree Fahrenheit or 1 degree or 2 degree Celsius cooling tower approach. Then Smart Joules propose that condenser pump frequency should be ramped down or the condenser side flows can be reduced. This is our theory, and we have actually validated it through our on-site experimentation, and we have actually saved huge amount of energy also. So this is actually a live example how to save energy. This is actually a mathematical model on top of which the data analytics as well as the automation is actually working upon. So we had data from 5 to 10 to 15 sites, and there's actually a lot of data coming through, and we came to know that we need not operate condenser pump and cooling tower on a constant kind of a fashion. We actually used both of these data that is coming through to run both of them in a variable kind of a way. So if the cooling tower approach is low, then that means the condenser pump should be kept at lower frequency and CT fan should be at higher frequency. And chiller load, centralized air conditioning chiller load should not be more than 70%. If that is another boundary condition, because higher the load, the heat will be higher amount of heat will be developed in the condenser of the chiller. There will be more hot surface developed, and it can create scaling issues in the chiller. But load is also a boundary condition, but still, cooling tower approach is high, pump frequency should be less, and condenser pump should be cooling tower should be more. So when the cooling tower approach increases, this axis is cooling tower approach, and this is the cost in terms of energy cost. So when cooling tower approach is increasing, what happens is there's a sweet spot where both the condenser pumping as well as the pumping water in the condenser circuit as well as the cooling tower fan speed is matching. Both should be operated in the same condition. And when again onto the right side of this graph, the condenser pump cost is increasing because the cooling tower is not effective and cooling tower approach is high. So the condenser pump is actually doing more work in terms of heat transfer. So pumping is more, but fan speed is less. So this is the third case or the three cases in terms of condenser circuit operation, the mathematical model which we follow and is one of its kind in the industry in terms of condenser circuit. All people in the condenser circuit, they operate on a constant fashion. Let's see what is the impact on the energy. So this is one example from one of our sites in Visakhapatnam where actually the wet bulb temperature or the humidity is very high. So in 2019 when there was nothing, no IoT, no data, no analytics or automation, what happened is the condenser pumping energy was somewhere around 5000. There are two cooling towers operating at 50 hertz, and then there is a total is somewhere around this mark. So in 2020, what happened is we installed a new cooling tower and we shut down the first cooling tower, and the only two cooling towers were operating. And condenser circuit was actually the pumping energy was reduced because of the lower cooling tower approach we got because of this new cooling tower. That does not mean all the three are running. Only two cooling towers are running. The older one did not operate. At the same time, the pumping energy also came down. So this is how we actually save energy from the condenser circuit. Again, the analytics I'm not showing how we do it in the real-time way or what are kind of analytical tools that are actually the intellectual properties of the institution itself. We use the analytics of our own BMS platform. We don't depend upon third party. And more than the analytics, what I believe or what you should understand is we need to know the subject better. You can have the machine learning understanding or you can even use a basic Excel sheet. But at the end of the day, if you don't know what is the process, there is no point in actually applying IoT. You need to know the process. You need to know how it is operating. Then only you will be able to save energy by applying this data line. Otherwise, it is just numbers for you. So again, we have published a paper in the same in the Energize conference. Again, I would share the link in the chat box later so that you can even go through a detailed read. So again, some basics about cooling tower. The cooling tower, the lower the approach, better it is. But if you want to make a low approach cooling tower, your initial cost would be very high. So lower the approach in terms of the difference between wet bulb temperature and the cooling tower outlet temperature, then that would be meaning this is cooling tower in and this is cooling tower out. So the outside temperature is a wet bulb temperature, and this cooling tower is trying to dissipate heat to the outside. I'm not going to the theory of this heat exchanger, but still. So these are the formulas, but the effectiveness what the company is trying to achieve, that is the delta T between these two, water coming in, water going out, that is the range of the cooling tower, and the water going out and the ambient wet bulb temperature, that is actually the cooling tower approach. So range by range plus approach is the CT effectiveness or the cooling tower effectiveness, which is somewhere around, it should be 70-72% for ideal centralized AC operation. Anyway, so that is what I believe it is written here. So in cooling tower, little bit onto the process part, little bit deviating from the data. If you don't know what is the cooling tower approach, what happens is if you don't have an IoT or a BMS platform to fetch the data to you and to make you see this data in real time, still the plant room will operate. Cooling tower approach is 2 degree Fahrenheit or 12 degree Fahrenheit, still your AC plant room will operate. But in 2 degree Fahrenheit, it will be consuming 100 units of energy, and 12 degree Fahrenheit, it will be consuming 500 units of energy. But nobody will know. And you will only come to know when you get the electricity bill. Every month you will get an electricity bill, you go and pay. But where you are losing energy. So some people make audit reports and give to the industry owner or the hospital or a building owner, and maybe it is sitting in a shelf, maybe it is applied or not applied. So we do all these analysis, we get leverage on the data. We know, if we know the data, we can actually identify when the maintenance needs to be done, or when the fills, the cooling tower fills needs to be cleaned, when the water quality needs to be checked, when the machine needs to be descaled. So all these insights or intelligence onto the data, onto the equipment, we get to these parameters of approach or condenser entry temperatures, all these things. So I am not making it too much data or too much process, but this is some process or theory you should understand. That is why I'm going through that. Anyway, so sorry. So I am now going into chiller. So what about chiller means? I told that it should be consuming around 69 to 70% of the chiller of the total plant room consumption, and ideal IKW should be somewhere around 0.48 for the chiller alone. So for generating 1 TR of cooling, chiller should not be consuming more than 0.48. That is what our company philosophy is, and that is what we depend on. So all chiller plant ancillaries operate alongside chiller to facilitate cooling to the building. That I have seen already told. The condenser pumps, the cooling towers, the chill water pumps, the heat exchangers, everything. They all operate alongside chiller. So the BMS, the IoT, Internet of Things based building management systems, has control over the chiller set point and chiller on off. Chiller set point is the temperature of the cold water leaving the chiller to the building. So this is one point we control in the chiller, and the second part is the on off control. So again, some theory before actually going to the analytics and showing you what we do. Everybody who are interested in centralized air conditioning or building energy management, chiller is the largest consumer of electricity in a building. For everybody's understanding, chiller consumes say 1,500 to 3,500 units in a building per day, depending upon the size of the building. Imagine it is a 200-bed hospital, it will be somewhere around 900,000 units. If it is a 1,000-bed hospital, it would be somewhere around 4,000, 4,200 units per day. That is the quantum of energy we are speaking. So maybe 40,000 units per day, per month, you can extrapolate. So that is the significance when anybody speaks about a building or building energy efficiency. If it is a centralized cooling is there in the building, that will be the largest consumer of electricity in that building. So then you should be knowing everything about that. There are two aspects you should know in terms of chiller consumption. One is actually load, and the second is the lift. So load, everybody knows in the building in terms of cooling, it is a delta T. This is the difference between the supply and return chilled water temperature. And the lift there are many definitions of lift, but basically what lift is, it is a delta between the operational temperatures of the evaporator and the condenser, or the operational pressures of the evaporator and the condenser. So that is the lift in which the compressor is now compressing the refrigerant from the evaporator to the condenser. So both these things control the consumption of energy. That is what it is written here. To identify it through data, it is a delta T is the difference between return and supply temperatures of chilled water, that is load, and lift is the difference between the condenser entering temperature, that is the outlet temperature of the water coming from the cooling tower, and the cold temperature or the chill water temperature leaving from the chiller or the evaporator to the building. The difference between these two is actually called the lift. So I keep these two things in mind. They are universal. If you want to save energy from a centralized air conditioning, if you want to save energy from any of these processes associated, you need to be very, very thorough about these two terms. Anyway, so some parameters on which load depends: outside temperature and humidity, occupancy of the building. More the number of people, the internal heat load will be high, the requirement of cooling will be high, so the delta T would be more. How to curb, as you have seen, the Ranna's analysis. If a particular equipment is not needed, shut it down. It will reduce your delta T. If the thermostat is applied, that is, if the area is not overcooled or undercooled, again you can curb the load, as we have seen in the software thermostat example. So finally, the tonnage injection experiments. That is, if the load on the building is too low and still the chiller is running, you can overcool the building and then you can shut down the plant. So that will also help you to improve the load on some time and then shut down the chiller for a lot of time. So that is another way to curb load. Coming to lift, lot of things. Many people say that lift is actually the most important thing when you speak about centralized air conditioning and how to save energy from centralized AC. So your cooling tower should be performing top to bottom perfectly, giving the best possible approach possible. So the condenser entering temperature or the cooling tower outlet temperature would be as less as possible. Less as possible in terms of data is less than 90 degrees Celsius or 90 degree Fahrenheit, sorry. 90, 88 degree Fahrenheit is the normal condenser entry to the chiller and or the cooling tower outlet from the cooling tower, the temperature of the water I am saying. And if you can make it as less as possible, it would be even more better. So lesser it is, better it is. So that is one aspect of cooling tower outlet or condenser entry. That is one parameter controlling the lift. Second aspect is the chill water outlet or chiller set point. Imagine that my set point is 5 degrees Celsius in the daytime. When the outside is really hot, my building is having lot of people, there are a lot of equipments running, so I need to make it really cold because of the very large internal load. But in the evening, in the night time, when the load is less, when the people are less, when the OP department shut down, when the outside temperature is falling, then I don't need 5 degree water. I can come down to 5, 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 degree. So that means that the temperature of the evaporator is coming down, the pressure is coming down. Temperature of the condenser is coming down, pressure is coming down. That means the effective lift is coming down. That is what is written here. So that is actually about lift. So how to curb it? Chiller set point resetting, that is changing chiller set point on different time of the day. Condenser circuit optimization, maintaining condenser approach temperatures I will go into later. So all these things if you do, you can improve the efficiency and save energy from the equipment. So what is chiller set point resetting in an ordinary building and how we do it differently? So temperature of the cold water leaving the chiller to the building is what we call the set point. And here you see it is in Fahrenheit, all these temperatures, and these are days. This is a day snapshot from our analytical platform. So set point is changing from say 45 degree or 44 degrees Celsius to 46. 1 or 2 times in a day it changes. This is actually the way in which an ordinary chiller plant room in a building operates. So how we can do it differently? As I have told, the occupancy changes, the critical natures, the OTs operate in the daytime, maybe in the night time. Maybe there are more people in the building in the day. The outside temperature is high in the day. Humidity is high in the daytime. So all these things change throughout the 24 hours. So how we can leverage on that in a better way? And that is how the Joule recipe service, that is the if this then that algorithm oriented optimization service within the DJoule or the BMS ecosystem that we operate comes in play. So based on all these changing requirements, the energy engineers like me, working with me, can write different types of algorithms, very, very simple algorithms, not in Python, not in Java, not in C++, nothing. Very simple way where energy engineers like me who does not know bits and pieces of coding can go into a user interface and write simple algorithms by which we can save energy. So that is how the Joule recipe service offers, and you can write it. I can say control my plant sitting at my home. Now I'm working at home in my home at Koilon in Kerala, and I can control a plant room in Delhi, Calcutta, Ahmedabad, everywhere by this Joule recipe IFTT service. And that is how again this IFTT and IoT and all these things are different from SCADA. So again, moving further, how we are changing it or how it is different in this snapshot, again from the BMS snapshot, you can see that in a single day we are able to change the chiller set point 20 times. So from 47 to 48, and again coming back to 44, again going back to 48, there are at least 20 or 18 changes in this time. And this is not somebody sitting in front of a computer and changing it at the different time. No, 20 to 25 algorithms written by energy engineers who know the process. Again, I am stressing upon the word know the process, how centralized air conditioning works. They analyze the data, they find out that this is the right combination right now. Let's deploy it through my BMS or IoT platform, and that algorithm will take a real-time decision to change the set point at a different time of the day based on building conditions, occupancy, outside temperatures, area comfort, whatever it is. And that is for every 1 degree Fahrenheit change in the chiller set point, you will be able to save 3% of energy. That is 3% of the chiller consumption. So 20 times in a day, changing from say 48 degree Fahrenheit, that is somewhere around that 8.5 degrees Celsius. We use Fahrenheit because it is better to control. Celsius is more whole numberish and this is more integer oriented. So anyway, so this is at 48 degree Fahrenheit and this is 44 degree Fahrenheit. So temperature is changing from 6.5 to 8.5 degrees Celsius in the course of 24 hours, it's going up and down. So this is one way of saving energy real time from the chiller. And just concluding on the last 5-6 slides. So what is happening in terms of, this is actually the analytics and the flowchart and the algorithm. Not going into the nitty-gritties, but very simple point is, based on outside air temperature that is coming from our own sensor. We have a sensor on top of the building that is actually taking the temperature and humidity, and that is actually one parameter we use for controlling the set point. So set point versus humidity and set point versus outside dry bulb temperature. This is outside humidity based set point and this is outside dry bulb based set point. So this is another way we control the system and the algorithms that our people have written, and how we change the set point real time. Not a person sitting in the front of computer and changing the set point. 25 or 30 algorithms running in the IoT hardware in the site or in the building, taking decisions real time. That is machine to machine decision making on top of data. So it does not require that much analytics or machine learning to do all these things. This is not machine learning you are seeing. Not a single thing you are seeing is machine learning. This is very, very simple things that we can do without even having machine learning applied, because of the basic fuzzy logics, as we call it. It is, the name is IFTTT, if this then that kind of basic algorithms running, and you are able to save energy. So at the end of the day, that is important. You can open a door through just using a jackhammer, and at the same time you can just push the door and push it open. So that is the difference between machine learning and basic data statistical or automation tools. Anyway, this is a snapshot of that automation platform we have. It is called Joule Recipes. You can construct algorithms and you can deploy it in real time. And again, some people ask me, if you reset the set point on terms of area temperature, in terms of all these factors, what will happen if there is a problem in an OT or in an ICU or maybe in a scanning room or MRI or wherever it is. So that is why the area temperatures are important. They measure the area temperatures and send in real time. And if a particular OT is found to be having a problem, a real-time alert or a message comes to the site energy engineer or a person from the operations team. At the same time, the IoT senses that there is a bottleneck or a problem area. As per the temperature, it is going high. It will activate the fail safe. First, it will increase the fan speed of the heat exchanger in the blower fan, and then it will open the valve, facilitating more water flow or 100% water flow. And then still the problem is there, then we will reduce the chiller set point and increase the chill water pumping. So all these fail safes are also in place. Finally, all these things are done, you are saving truckloads of energy. So the impact of savings is say 400 to 450 units per day if you do all these things in the same chiller. So that is how the different equipment save, and this is something related to the maintenance. As I have told, the condenser approach and the approach temperatures, that is the any heat exchanger that is actually facilitating a heat exchange from a source to sink is subjected to scaling if the water is involved. So the water quality is an impact, is a problem. If the water quality is bad, then scales adhere to the heat exchanger surface, and it is actually decreasing the efficiency of the system. So in chiller, it is called the condenser approach, and the value of the condenser approach for everybody for academic purpose as well as industrial learning, it is 5 to 8 degree Fahrenheit is the normal value. If it is going above this number, then your efficiency is going to take a big hit. So lesser the approach, lesser the scaling, better is the efficiency of the system. And similarly, evaporator approach is also there, but evaporator circuit is mostly a closed loop in terms of water cooled chillers. So that is not a big factor, but still there is a range. 2 to 3 Fahrenheit is actually the normal value. All from data and continuous analytics, but I can't show you that analytics in real time because it requires a lot of time. So what are the aftermaths or results of analytics and what can you do using data is what I'm showing. Anyway, so moving into the last part, as you have seen in that flyer of this webinar also, how can you use power signatures for saving data, for saving energy? So energy meters, smart meters are nowadays available in every single location in India. They carry all the information, the basics like power and voltage to consumption and meter readings to details like harmonics and all the very, very deep level kind of electrical parameters are there. But what we can do using a simple power signature, what we can delineate. I think Energy Efficiency Services Limited, EESL, even approved for a project where a simple household smart meter, what it can do. If you're interested, you can Google it out, it is there. But that is the power of an energy meter, a simple smart meter that is able to send you data. So you can see what are the natures of machine operation, when it is starting, when it is stopping, what is the power factor, what is the consumption, and how we can improve. All these things, it is there in the energy meter. So this is simple heat pump data. So heat pump, I believe you know, it is actually something we use in centralized air conditioning where if you require hot water, we can take it from just the same circuit that is chiller, but the output here is hot water. So it is having multiple compressors. From a single energy meter, we are able to gather entire table information. A single 2000 rupees energy meter. So this anybody can do. You people also can attach an energy meter to any of your household. You can see how the meter signatures are varying. So when two compressors are on, it is taking this much kilowatt. When one compressor is on, it is taking this much kilowatt. Then it is standby mode. It is a sleep is standby. It is taking this much kilowatt, and at the end of the day, it is off. It is zero. So from this, we are able to delineate the running hours of the equipment. How many hours it is running? What is the load? What is the two compressor on? So all these things, a simple energy meter is able to tell us, and we can improve the operations accordingly. So that is the different applications you can control. Even there is something called motor current signature analysis. So if an equipment is drawing more current than it is supposed to be, the winding insulation of the motor might be damaged. Maybe. There are many reasons, but maybe. But all these things, if the data is there and you are seeing the live amount of ampere drawn, you will be able to decipher that there is something wrong with this motor, we will have to do something. That is called motor current signature analysis. You can Google it out, lot of theory, lot of aspects, but it's a preventive maintenance kind of an aspect that we can bring into using data. So all these things are some examples I will be quickly running through because time is already 12. And if you see, this is actually a simple example. If you see that the ampere drawn as per the rated details are available. The motor ID is there, ampere, that is a simple snapshot from our BMS, from the data that we download from it. So ampere is rated as per this and it is measuring at this range. So the measured ampere is there and the ampere loading If you see in Bureau of Energy Efficiency website, there is a big write-ups for ampere loading and percentage kilowatt loading. So the ampere loading of many motors are more, means it is drawing more ampere than required, means the winding is getting heated up, and eventually maybe the motor can go bad. So these kind of, I would say, prescriptive analytics, that is what a BMS or an IoT offer to you. It is doing, and it is not only detecting an anomaly. This is an anomaly, but not only detecting an anomaly, but it will tell you why it is happening or from what time it is happening and what you can do to maybe resolve it. So that is the prescriptive analytics part that a BMS is capable of. And again, the power of historical data. This is huge. And if anybody says, I think this is actually the most important thing of these times. If you know what has happened last year, you can prepare yourself for this year. So living examples, especially in Kerala, what we have, I would say, encountered in the last years, and how we are using that data to prepare ourselves for this year in terms of flooding or whatever it is. So in 2020 or 2019, I had experience that this is a consumption. So my baseline, I am setting it for 2020 based on last year's data, and then this is real data for 2020. So I can compare my current year consumption with the last year consumption and see whether I am doing better or bad. So this is the huge amount of advantage that IoT or a BMS can give to you, and the capability of cloud, storing data in cloud and performing cloud analytics, can give to you. So that is a simple sneak peek. This is actually a consumption of energy meters. This is a baseline. You see, both it is 2020. Don't get confused. This 2020 is our projection based on 2019. It is written daily consumption baseline for 2020. So these numbers, we are actually analyzing the last year data, that is 2019, and then preparing it for 2020. And this is 2020 actual data. And this is a deviation from the baseline, that is 2020 minus 2019, or the projection. So all these things are there. I think this is the end. And I know there were some hiccups in between, and maybe uh, disrupted the flow, but still at the end of the day, I believe you might have got something out of this.